Some say sport is a matter of life and death. The truth is, it is far more serious than that. Sport is about ecstasy and agony, about pain and suffering, about joy and much more. Some say there's no one better to tell these stories. So here I am. Join me, Boria Majumdar, on India's #1 news network.
कहना इस दीवार पे इतने इश्तहार चिपके हैं कि कोई दरार नज़र नहीं आती। मैं उन लोगों में से जो कहता हूँ सारे इश्तहार फाड़ के फेंको, पहले दरार को एड्रेस करो।
ये दरार इसलिए
You're watching World 24/7 with me, Arjun, and here are your global talking points for the day. Indian team in US to give fresh push to bilateral trade deal. Piyush Goyal says trade negotiation going on at a very fast pace. Trump slams Vladimir Putin, gives 50-day ultimatum to end Ukraine war, greenlights more Patriot deliveries for Kyiv. AM Jaishankar attends key SCO meet in China, urges open dialogue to sustain ties. Tesla all set to mark India debut with Mumbai showroom, first showroom to open in Bandra Kurla complex today. And India's space heroes homecoming, Captain Shubhanshu Shukla set for California's splashdown this afternoon. The top focus this Tuesday on World 24/7. Viewers, a top-level Indian delegation has landed in Washington for crucial trade negotiations with the United States. Now, the clock is ticking, just 50 days left before the US could reimpose steep tariffs in India, especially on steel, aluminium and the automobile sector. It will be led by Commerce Ministry officials. India is holding firm on its stance, no duty cuts on agriculture or dairy, it has underlined. In return, India wants tariff relief on labor-intensive exports like textile, gems, and even seafood. Well, the goal is a 500 billion bilateral trade boost by 2030. But first, both sides are pushing for an interim deal before the 1st of August. Agriculture, autos, and industrial goods are, in fact, the sticking points. Talks are intense and the time is tight. The next 50 days, in fact, will decide whether the two economic giants can avoid a trade showdown and indeed secure a breakthrough deal. Here's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, followed by NDTV Profits Rishabh Bhatnagar for you.
I've often said trade negotiations are not done on camera with the media. They are done between two nations, and negotiations are going on at a very fast pace and in the spirit of mutual cooperation, so that we can come out with a win-win trade complementing agreement with the United States.
Right. What we picked up from official sources is the fact that the Indian team is in Washington for another round of talks. This time around, though, the chief negotiator, Rajesh Agarwal, who is also a special secretary, will be joining in on Wednesday. What is expected is that these talks will last about 4 days, post which there might be a mini trade deal or an interim trade deal that will come out between India and the US. What we've seen is that Indian negotiators were in the US as early as July 4th that weekend, and they were hoping for a deal before the July 9 deadline. But with the July 9 deadline now shifting to August 1st, there is extended time for more negotiations to happen. What we're also picking up is that this deal might not be a very limited deal, in the sense that whatever will be finished and agreed upon between the two sides will be packaged as the interim trade deal. And then a first full tranche is expected around October this year. And then we'll have the full and final FTA sometime next year. That is how the timeline goes. What India can expect is, of course, relief from these relentless tariffs that have been coming on, one of which, and these threats also in terms of the BRICS tariff, in terms of the pharma tariff threats, but threats coming in from the Trump administration. That is something that has unsettled India as well, given that if there is a deal, Indian negotiators would want assurance that there are no additional tariffs. So that is something that is on the cards, and we will keep our eyes peeled on whatever comes out of Washington.
Staying with Washington, President Donald Trump has announced a 50-day ultimatum to end the war in Ukraine. It's backed by a bold two-part strategy. The US will massively arm Ukraine via NATO, with Europe sending Patriot systems and even missiles replenished later by America. Now, Trump has also warned of 100% tariffs on any country still trading with Russia if a peace deal is not reached in that 50 days duration. Now, this means countries like India could also pay double if they keep buying Russian oil. Trump called the new weapon top of the line and said Putin should now think twice. Meanwhile, NATO chief Mark Rutte confirmed the plan, while Ukraine's President Zelensky has welcomed the support and has also vowed to, in fact, push for peace. But skeptics in Moscow, well, they called the move a bluff. Here's what Trump said.
Secondary tariffs are very, very powerful.
What about the tariffs that the Republicans in the House and the Senate have ready? Those were 500%. Sure. Why are you doing 100%?
Well, the Republicans are moving very strongly in the Senate, giving us total control of it. They've actually crafted a pretty good piece of legislation. It's probably going to pass very easily, and that includes Democrats. And there's some little tweaks, but I don't want to say I don't need it because I don't want them to waste their time. It could be very useful. We'll have to see. But we can do secondary. We're probably talking about 100% or something like that.
So can you clarify?
We can do secondary tariffs without the Senate, without the House. But what they're crafting also could be very good.
Meanwhile, here's what Trump said, and followed by Mark Rutte, in fact. Listen in.
And we make the best equipment, the best missiles, the best of everything. The European nations know that. And we've made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we've made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it and they're going to be paying for it.
So what we will do is work through the NATO systems to make sure that we know what Ukrainians need, so that we can make packages. Of course, in a way, we discussed it this morning with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon, in a way that, of course, the US will put on its stockpiles necessary to defend this country. That's absolutely clear. But it will mean that Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition, etc., etc.
Meanwhile, senior journalist Daniel Block joins us from Washington, D.C. Mr. Block, is this 50-day deadline which Trump is claiming a serious diplomatic lever or just another political theater with little to no follow-up, as we've been seeing ever since the 20th of January, in fact?
Well, with President Trump, it's always very hard to say. This is certainly not the first time that he's talked about getting tough on Putin and then when the rubber hit the road, backed away. That said, what seems different this time around is the specificity. So the plan that he and the NATO Secretary General have come to, the fact that there's now more concrete legislation in Congress, the fact that he's throwing out more specific numbers than he was before, all of that suggests that this is more serious than previously. He may now actually be changing his mind. That said, again, we've been down this road before, if not quite that far down this road. So until it happens, we can't be sure that it will.
He's talking about imposing 100% tariffs on Russian trade partners as well. Now, could these 100% tariffs also economically backfire on the US and its allies?
It's always hard to say exactly what the effects are going to be, especially because we don't know what the eventual number will wind up being. But one thing we've seen since the start of the war is that the United States and its allies, particularly its allies in Europe, have been willing to incur a degree of economic pain in service of helping Ukraine and in service of sanctioning Russia. So, various tariffs have led to higher energy prices, again, particularly on Europe. The United States is much more insulated from this to a certain extent. So could it have some negative economic repercussions for the United States and Europe? Sure. Is that a price that Europe has been willing to pay? So far, absolutely. Is that a price that the United States will be willing to pay? We'll see. My guess is yes, that is a price the United States will be willing to pay. And again, the United States is more insulated from sanctions against Russia than are its European allies.
A very quick yes or no last question here. How realistic is it that the massive US-NATO arms transfer can indeed shift the battlefield, and that too very quickly? Do you think that will happen, or that's unlikely to happen?
I think it could probably help stabilize the battlefield such that Russia's advances, which are already not all that speedy, slow down even more, and maybe it reaches a true stalemate where neither side is advancing. But who knows? This war has been full of surprises on the battlefield.
Of course, full of surprises indeed. Thank you so much for joining us there. Now, shifting our focus to Maharashtra and the Maximum City, where Tesla is in fact making a bold move into India with its first ever experience center opening hours from now in Mumbai's Bandra Kurla complex. Now, the store will showcase Tesla's popular Model Y, expected to be priced above 60 lakh rupees, targeting India's luxury electric vehicle market. In fact, my colleague Agnidev Bhattacharya joins us from ground zero, right outside where this Tesla showroom will be, or the experience center rather as they're calling it, will be inaugurated. Agnidev, what's the latest you're picking up? How's the anticipation, and what can we expect once this experience center indeed launches today?
Right, hello, good morning. So a bold move, like you said, is exactly how I would describe the new Tesla showroom in India, because remember, this here is an experience center in Mumbai's BKC, while Tesla has no factory in India yet and has no manufacturing commitment signed with the government. Now remember, what we are seeing is a cautious and optimistic approach by Tesla to enter into the Indian market and establish itself as an electric vehicle player. Now this first electric vehicle showroom that is supposed to be launched in Mumbai's BKC will be featuring the Tesla Model Y. Now the Model Y is expected to be priced at over 60 lakh a unit, and it is set to shake up the high-end EV space in the country, like you said. Now remember, nothing happens in its own vacuum, and why is Tesla's entry important? Remember that Tesla is the world's most iconic electric car, but India of course levies 70 to 100% duty on any imported vehicles, and this doesn't sit well with Elon Musk. But the Indian government has declined to cut any duties, and we know that Elon Musk skipped his meeting in India last year, and Indian government has encouraged Musk to manufacture in India. And Tesla this is a big move for Tesla. A lot is riding on this for them, because the company has seen a slowdown in its sales. It has sold 3.4 lakh units in the first quarter, which is down 60,000 units on a year-on-year basis. And Chinese brands like BYD and Xiaomi, which makes a lot of our mobile phones, are also eating into its market share. Remember, BYD is now the world's largest electric vehicle manufacturer. Now Tesla's stock has also taken a bit of a beating over these numbers, and also since the Trump-Musk fallout has happened, and India will be a key market as Chinese vehicles like those made by BYD and Xiaomi are finding it difficult to be sold in India. But priced at over 60 lakh unit, a Model Y will also find it hard to get itself some takers, because 60,000 again is a price point that is limited to very few people. So what we will wait and see is how the demand picks up and how the supply continues, and we are here at BKC throughout the day bringing you more updates.
Thank you so much for that, Agnidev. India's astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla and his crew undocked from the International Space Station Monday afternoon, beginning their 22-hour journey back to Earth. After an 18-day mission aboard the ISS, the Dragon Grey spacecraft left this station Monday afternoon IST. The splashdown is expected off the California coast by 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time this afternoon. Here's more.
Indian Gagan Yatri, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, who has been at the International Space Station for 18 days, completed his mission at the International Space Station and is now heading back to Earth. Group Captain Shukla went to the International Space Station from the Kennedy Space Center on June 25th, and since then At the International Space Station, he has participated in about 60 scientific experiments, of which 7 of them were India-specific, participated in some outreach activity, and also spoke to Prime Minister Narendra Modi from space. Now, Group Captain Sumanshu Shukla is expected to splash down off the coast of California sometime around 3 o'clock in the afternoon India time. Group Captain Sumanshu Shukla is an Indian Air Force test pilot and is now expected to participate when he comes back in India's own human space program called Gaganyaan. Group Captain Shukla will participate in Gaganyaan and will help train not just the engineers but also the future crew which will go on Gaganyaan. Gaganyaan is India's ambitious human space program where by 2027 it is expected that the first Indian will go to space from Sriharikota. And after that, India wants to set up an international space station by 2035 and land an Indian on the moon by 2040. He will have a 7-day rehabilitation program after his stint in microgravity in Houston, and after that there would be his homecoming to India. So Ghar Wapsi for Group Captain Shukla, who has been beaming and happy and spent a fruitful time at the International Space Station. In New Delhi, Palav Bagla for NDTV.
It's time we slip into a short break. Much more on the other side.
But I'd like to start this off by asking you, Vishnu, what you think about the whole question of India not having stealth fighters right now.
It's a huge
Everyone's
problem.
trying to sell them to us as well.
It's a huge problem, Shiv. Let's face it, in as much as we love the Rafale aircraft and the Indian Air Force is completely vouching for it, perhaps they'd like more than 100 more. The Indian Navy has just gotten into an order for 26 Rafale M aircraft. There is a generation gap between the Rafale and the stealth. There is a good reason why a stealth platform is called a 5th generation aircraft and a Rafale is a 4th or 4.5 generation aircraft, and that is low observability. So in as much as the Rafale has brilliant sensors, both in terms of its radar, its defensive suite, its electronic warfare suite, its towed array decoy system, it is not typically a low observability platform in quite the same manner in which a stealth aircraft is. Its design form is different. And therefore, if Pakistan does have low observable aircraft, which would be the J-35, in fact, the first ones might
In his first visit to China in nearly 5 years, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Beijing with a clear message: normalize ties, avoid trade curbs, and resolve border friction. Jaishankar urged China to resume sharing hydrological data, lift trade restrictions, and restore people-to-people exchanges. He said recent border de-escalation must lead to lasting peace and cooperation. With India and China marking 75 years of diplomatic ties, Jaishankar has set a 50-day tone, pushing for progress ahead of the SCO summit, where PM Modi is likely to meet President Xi again. Meanwhile, India is calling for mutual respect, stable relations, and no return to conflict. Now the ball is clearly, it seems to be, in Beijing's court. In fact, for more on this, senior journalist Anil Pandey joins us from Beijing. Mr. Pandey, thank you so much, first of all, for taking out the time, sir. Now, can India and China ties really improve without addressing the standing border standoff issue first?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Most certainly, Mr. Pandey. I was asking, can India and China ties really improve, without addressing the border standoff issue first?
Definitely. Actually, what we have been noticing for a very long time, China and India are having the border problem at the line of actual control, LAC. Still, we had very robust trade ties, as we have witnessed in the past, although India have always complained about the trade deficit. But as we see right now also, India and China's bilateral trade has reached more than $120 billion. So this is very significant thing, although we know how relations have historically low since the Galwan Valley clash in 2020. But when Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping met in Kazan October last year, so relations have been improving steadily since then. Even Foreign Minister Jaishankar, who is in China for his first visit after 2020, he also mentioned and stressed about the mutual respect, mutual cooperation, and mutual understanding between two nations.
Well, thank you so much for your perspective there. And we'll, of course, keep tracking the EAM's visit to China. Now, moving on to West Asia, where time is running out for Indian nurse Nimisha Priya, sentenced to death in Yemen, in fact, for the 2017 killing of a former business partner, who she says harassed her and even stole her passport. Now, with just hours left until her July 16 execution, India's Supreme Court was told the government has reached its limit. The Attorney General said, and I quote here, "It's unfortunate, but there's only so much we can do." Now, Priya's only hope now remains a last-minute pardon from the victim's family in exchange for what they call blood money. A $1 million offer they've so far refused, citing their honor. Now, the case is complicated by Priya's detention in the Houthi-controlled territory, limiting New Delhi's diplomatic access. Meanwhile, activists are still urging direct talks, but officials are saying we've done all we can. With the clock ticking, her fate is now in Yemen's hands. Shifting focus to Canada, where India has slammed what it calls a despicable and regrettable act. Eggs were hurled at devotees during the 53rd Rath Yatra in Toronto on the 11th of July. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs has condemned the attack, calling it a shameful disruption of a peaceful spiritual procession that promotes unity. The eggs were allegedly thrown from a residential building as ISKCON devotees sang bhajans in the streets. Videos show the aftermath: smashed eggs on the road, but the devotees still marched on. Social media users, meanwhile, called it an act of hate, while former Odisha CM Naveen Patnaik also urged strong action, saying it deeply hurt religious sentiments. Meanwhile, my colleague Maha Siddiqui joins us from Vancouver. Maha, have authorities identified these individuals or miscreants, should I call them, responsible for these attacks? And are hate crimes charges also being considered against them?
While this matter is being looked at currently by the authorities, the response from the Indian side, which you have just pointed out to, has called this a despicable act. And in fact, India says that it has raised this issue with the Canadian authorities. The Canadian authorities are already looking at other issues as well with regards the Indian community here in Canada, which has faced certain incidents which can be categorized as racist or xenophobic incidents which the community has complained about. And in this specific case, those who are part of the procession have in fact documented this, put it out on social media to show how eggs were hurled at them from residential buildings. Now, while most other observers of the social media post have commented, calling this a sad incident, an unfortunate incident, there are some who have again made some comments with regards to the way the procession was taking place on the roads, saying that it was a loud procession. In fact, again, comments made which show a certain degree of intolerance towards this religious procession that was being taken out as part of the ISKCON 53rd Rath Yatra. In fact, ISKCON has already always said that this is a procession where loud chanting takes place, and it is meant to be that way. The procession is meant to be taken out that way. But clearly, this is once again an indication that this sort of an issue can upset or cause friction between two countries, and India and Canada, as they're trying to improve the ties that have seen a lot of ups and downs since 2023, need to tread carefully on these issues.
Well, of course, there, Maha, and also not too much of a change from the Trudeau administration to this Carney administration, as we're seeing. Thank you so much. Now, moving ahead across the southern border, in fact, where the political billboard battle is lighting up Times Square, and it comes with a 50-day warning. Now, a bold new digital ad urges New Yorkers to flee to Ohio, slamming Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani as a radical socialist while pitching Republican Vivek Ramaswamy as the pro-freedom alternative. Now, backed by a Ramaswamy super PAC, the $50,000 billboard contrasts the two Indian-American rising stars, Mamdani in blue New York, Ramaswamy running red in Ohio. Now, with just 50 days to go before November elections, Ramaswamy's team says it's a choice between socialist totalitarian or American freedom. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has won Supreme Court approvals to slash nearly 1,400 jobs from the U.S. Education Department. That's correct. In a 6-3 decision, the conservative majority lifted a lower court block greenlighting Trump's executive order to begin shutting down the department. But it's a part of his push to dismantle the administrative state, so he calls it. Meanwhile, Education Secretary Linda McMahon calls it a historic win. But Justice Sotomayor warns of a constitutional crisis, saying it usurps Congress and could cripple civil rights protection, student aid, and also support for disabled kids. Meanwhile, states and unions now have 50 days to respond as schools brace for major funding gaps and possible delays in financial aid as well. Ukrainian President Zelensky has nominated First Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Sardetko to lead his cabinet and significantly renew its work in the most notable shakeup of his government ever since Russia's full-scale invasion back in February 2022. Now, if approved by Parliament, she, who also currently serves as the Economy Minister, would replace current Prime Minister Denis Shamhal to become her country's 19th head of government. Over in the US, the Pentagon has signed a multi-million-dollar deal to begin using Elon Musk's artificial intelligence chatbot Grok as part of a wider rollout of AI tools for government use. The $200 million contract is part of its Grok for Government program and aligns with the Trump administration's push for aggressive adoption of artificial intelligence. It also comes just days after Grok sparked backlash for spouting anti-Semitic posts, including praise for Adolf Hitler on X, the social media platform owned by Musk himself. Well, that's all we have for you this Tuesday morning. Much more with Divya on the other side.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
जनता के पास सवाल ही सवाल है, जवाब ढूंढने को वो देखती है न्यूज़ और देखती है यहाँ तो सवालों का मायाजाल है। ऊपर से ये अलग फाइट है, कोई पूरा लेफ्ट तो कोई पूरा राइट है, बीच में मुद्दे के साथ कौन है, जनता को जवाब चाहिए। इसीलिए सवालों की परेड नहीं, मैं लाऊंगा खबरों की कचहरी। मैं शुभांकर मिश्रा, मेरे साथ देखिए कचहरी रात 8 बजे सिर्फ NDTV इंडिया पर।
Well, in the latest episode of Control All Defense, we are talking about a platform that all of you want to hear about, that's Tejas. The big question, we do know it's a great platform, but is it of use for the Indian Air Force going into the future? How relevant will it remain?
A 36-hour non-stop flight
Yeah, 18
by a
into two.
small pack of B-2s. A lot of other aircraft were also involved, we know that. But let's talk about the B-2 flight itself. They took off from Missouri. 36 hours later, they landed back without once landing.
Twenty-two-year-old Odisha girl has died. She's come to her burn injuries after fighting for her life for 3 days. Do remember that she had self-immolated. She'd set herself on fire after inaction on a sexual harassment complaint against her professor. And the big NDTV impact we're talking about, Eknath Shinde there schooling his MLAs. Shinde reading out the riot act to the Sena MLAs. You misbehave, I get flack. He's gone on to say that his reputation is on the line and that they shouldn't let the success get to their head. In fact, they should just behave like a party worker, just the same as he does. India plugs into Tesla. The electrifying car makes its entry with the first Indian showroom that's going to be opening up in Mumbai's BKC. And after this, the next stop is going to be Delhi. There's going to be a new showroom of Tesla that's going to be opening up here in the national capital as well. But today, all eyes on that opening in Mumbai. India's fresh push for US trade deal. Indian negotiations. This is the team as far as the United States is concerned. Piyush Goyal, they're saying that talks progressing at a fast pace. Donald Trump there slamming Putin again, giving him a 50-day ultimatum to end the Ukraine war. Else, there are going to be tariffs. This is what he has warned of, and green lights more Patriot deliveries to Ukraine. India's space heroes homecoming, as Shubhanshu Shukla said, for that California splashdown, which is going to take place at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Indian Standard Time. A very good morning. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vatwa. We have a whole lot lined up for you. Very tragic news coming in of the girl student who set herself ablaze outside the Fakir Mohan Autonomous College Principal's Chamber in Balasore on the 12th of July. She's come to her burn injuries a little close to 12 o'clock at night on Monday. She died last night after battling for her life for 3 days. The deceased had sustained 90 to 95% burn injuries, many of which were deep and caused serious internal damage affecting her kidneys and her respiratory system.